Now, I'm Stephanie Barrientos. I'm from the University of Manchester, Professor of Global Development, and I've worked for many years, done research on global value chains, and particularly with a labour focus. And I also coordinated with Gary Gireffi the Capturing the Gains programme, which brought together a large group of researchers on global value chain.
Yeah, that was such an important project. Maybe provide an overview of the research questions there and how that was important for the field.
Yeah, the Capturing the Gains programme looked at economic and social upgrading and downgrading in global value chains. I think there'd been a lot of research done separately on the commercial side, industrial upgrading and inter-firm relations. And then there was a related but slightly separate body of research on labour conditions, often with a gender perspective, because such a large number of workers in value chains are actually women, and it's made a big difference for women. But what we hadn't really done, and the goal of Capturing the Gains, was to bring those different bodies of literature together and the research together to try and understand the interlinkages between the economic dimensions and dynamics of value chains and the social dynamics. And a premise of the research was that economic upgrading can lead to social upgrading for workers and small producers, but doesn't necessarily. So under what conditions and how can economic upgrading lead to social upgrading? And then by bringing together a large network of researchers in Europe, the US, Africa, Asia and Latin America, we did research in 4 different sectors or value chains, because these were cross-sector in reality, which was agri-food, apparel, textiles, mobile phones and tourism. And we did a number of different comparative case studies in different countries to look at situations where upgrading, social and economic upgrading had gone together, and situations where it hadn't, or even where you'd had economic and social downgrading. And now what we're doing is bringing the findings of those different studies together to try and analyse across them what are the implications for the future of value chains as a channel for development.
Sure. Where are you in that process? Is it still in the initial phases, or have any?
Well, the funding for the main programme finished in 2013, and we have a website which has over 40 working papers up on it, and then a number of, it was a network rather than a project, and so that there was a lot of ongoing research as we were going through the process. So some publications or related publications have come out, such as William Milberg's and Deborah Winkler's book, Outsourcing Economics. That was very much informed, they did that very early on, but it was informed by the Capturing the Gains research, and they set the framework for some of the research we then did. We're currently in the middle of producing some edited journal volumes, special editions of journals, which bring together different groups of papers. So that's in process currently. We have 2 books that are current edited books that are currently again in process, both focusing in on the Asia studies with a potential of one on bringing together the Africa studies. So those will be more regionally focused. And we've just established with Cambridge University Press a special book series on global value chains, which has just been agreed with Cambridge University Press. So a lot of this will be going into Cambridge University Press. And then my own work, I'm looking at gender and global value chains. So drawing on all of that research and research I'd done previously, really looking at what's changed for women, because I think there's been big changes in gender relations, the relations between men and women, not just for women on their own, because I do see global value chains as actually having a very significant gender dimension, both at the consumer end, because global value chains are consumer focused, and a lot of very large number of customers are women, and especially in both developed and developing countries now, many more women work and are active consumers, but they still have many responsibilities in terms of household responsibilities for the more traditional gender role that women have tended to play. But also at the production end, women play a major role in a lot of the industries, and very new opportunities for women to work in apparel, in agri-food, in tourism, even in microelectronics, and certainly in the labour-intensive industries, but even in some of the more knowledge-intensive industries, there are opportunities for women to work which they never had before. So I think there are very, very important impacts, if you like, and changes with significant development implications, both in the global north and in the global south. So this is what I'm working on.
We're 3 days into the summit now, how has it been helpful? What will you take from it?
Yeah, the summit's been very helpful. It certainly brings together an enormously knowledgeable group of people, both from the research and from the policy community. And just to have that opportunity to interact and to see where different people are working, what the challenges they're facing, how they're addressing them, I think that's been just very, very intense discussion, but also very informative. I think for me, where the summit, I think hopefully will go and will inform, is when we're all working in our own silos or in our own institutions or in our own focus. I think we're all doing, in my view, and I'm biased, very important work, but we're not seeing necessarily the bigger picture. And I think what we really need to, and where this summit has really contributed, and I think Pascal Lamy's talk really helped to bring this out quite clearly, is we're in a significant transition from what he called the old world to the new world. And I think where the summit could really contribute going forward is how the work of all of the participants, and many more who aren't here, can be brought together to really contribute and inform how the new world can advance, but in ways that benefit those who aren't necessarily automatically going to benefit. So that comes back to this issue of economic and social upgrading, that in the New World Order there are certainly some that will benefit. So some firms, some workers will clearly benefit just by participating, but not all will necessarily benefit. So if this is going to be a genuine development agenda which helps to move the New World Order on as something which is beneficial rather than as something which could even be divisive, but certainly partial, then there has to be very clear policy interventions and strategies that go with the New World Order. And I think that's where this summit and this group of people could really contribute in thinking that through. What are the public policy, what are the private policy, and what are the social governance implications of this New World Order, and how to advance in a positive way.